Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Rachel Akers again, and I'm going to bring you a tutorial today on how to make a really pretty one bead ring that kind of goes with our one bead bracelet. The tutorial for this will follow at the end, but today we're going to focus on the one bead ring, and I just want to show you a couple of different examples. I've got one here that's made from silver and a beautiful little peacock pearl, and then you can also make it in different coloured wire. We've got here an antique bronze with a lovely black lava bead. I've made one with a really big green aventurine bead, and these are both in antique bronze. We also have our copper wire as well, but today I am going to stick with, I think, the silver wire. It's silver plated copper, and I use 20 gauge wire, and the reason for this is I think they look really pretty and delicate in this colour, and I've decided that I want to make it with this really pretty little amethyst bead. I recommend that you choose a bead between 5mm to 6 or 7mm. Any bigger than that gets a little bit bulky, doesn't look quite as good. I want to run you through a few things that you need to start off with, and then we'll get on to making it. So to start with, these pieces aren't absolutely essential, but I would say if you are going to make quite a lot of rings, that they actually are really helpful. So we've got our ring sizer here, which basically if you're making it for somebody else, you can get them to try it on and get to the right size that they want for their finger. So for me, I'm going to take a look through these. I have quite chunky fingers, I'm not ashamed to say I have fat fingers, and so I know that a 9 is fairly good on my middle finger, but it also just about fits onto that finger too. So actually when I make this ring, because this ring is actually adjustable, as you can see on this side here, we've got adjustable rings, and it means that if I make it to a 9, about a 9, then this ring will fit either one of those fingers. So the next thing we need is our ring mandrel. Now this has all your numbers all the way down, and it's really good for once you've made your ring. If you put this on, you can see that this goes to a 9, between a 9 and a 10, and I know that that's where I want my ring to sit. If you can see the numbers, the red numbers on here. Both of these are available to purchase. If you have a look at the description down below, it will send you to the link to buy these. They are really helpful, and they're not particularly expensive. So I'll be using the mandrel to also shape the ring later. The other thing you need is your set of pliers. There's also a link in the description for these. I find the ones that I use the most are the round nose pliers, which are these ones. These really help with making the little shapes at the bottom. You've got your cutters, which have a completely flat edge, so you can cut really close to the wire and make it really neat. And then you've got these, which are your needle nose pliers. Now these ones are really handy. I only started off with this one pair actually. I only bought these, and they have a cutter attached, so they're great. But as I said, you can get them as a set of 3. So those are the ones I'm going to use today, and we can get started. So this is our 20 gauge wire, and what we need to do is we need to make sure that it's going to fit around your finger on the size that you want twice. So I'm going to make it around a 9.5, and I'm just going to wrap this around kind of double, just to make sure that I've got enough. And usually I give myself just a little bit extra, just to make sure that I've got enough to make it, because you can always cut a little bit off, but you can't add any. So first thing we're going to do is we are going to bend our wire in half, and I just use my fingers, keep pulling my fingers along the wire to run out any kinks, because the problem with this can be that because it's a very delicate ring, it's very easy to see any kinks, and little notches that you don't want to be in there. So what I want to do is just give it a squeeze with my fingers. So make sure that these two run parallel to each other. That's what we're going to do now. There we go. They're all sitting nicely. One thing this technique can teach you is I really love my above the knuckle rings, and so the technique I'm using now is the exact technique I used to make these as well, and it's just before I put the bead on. So if you want to make a few of these, it's really quick and simple. You can make them in a few minutes, and you'll have lots of above the knuckle rings, which I find really cool. So now we've got our doubled over piece. We're bringing in our ring mandrel again, and we're looking for the number 9. For me personally, you might be up here at a number 6 or 7 with skinny fingers, but I have the number 9, and I'm going to just coax this around, all the way around, to make a really nice, neat, clean circle. As you can see, I've got a little bit too much left over on this side, but as I said, you can chop this off, make it smaller, which is what we need. So we've now made our ring shape, and I'm just going to check that, yeah, we're going to fit on that finger. And what we need to do is put one on one side and one on the other with our looped part in the middle. And this is far too long at the moment, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it off about there. Now I've said this one before, but hold on to the other end, because otherwise it will shoot across the room and end up hiding in your carpet or wherever else you are doing it, and it can be quite dangerous because it can flick into your face. So I recommend holding on to the ends and making sure that doesn't happen. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get our round-edged, round-nosed pliers, and we're going to just twist it to create this little circle. The reason we're doing this is because you don't want to leave an unfinished edge, because this could catch on your clothes, it could catch on you, and it could be quite uncomfortable. So the best plan is to twist them out of the way, and it kind of just makes a nice pretty finish as well. So then I just squash it down, make sure they're nice and neat. And that is actually how I make the above the knuckle ring, but you'd make it a little bit smaller and then it would fit above the knuckle like the ones I'm wearing. So if you can see lots of lovely scratches on my hands at the moment, don't worry, it's not from jewellery making, it's from making a massive 4-foot metal tree that's currently sitting in my lounge, and I have scratches all over me. Generally the jewellery making is not quite so dangerous, but that video will actually be popping up soon when I've finished as a time-lapse video, so keep a lookout for that one. So coming back to the ring, we've got our basic shape all ready. Check again, fits lovely, and we are going to get our lovely little amethyst gemstone bead, and we're going to attach that. So we now need our 26 gauge wire, and I've wrapped it around there because it keeps shooting off and uncoiling, which is really annoying. So we don't need a massive length of this, we're not doing a huge thing with it, so I'm just going to measure with the mandrel to say I want it to be about the length of that. They're not eye cutters. Cut that piece off. And this is what we need to start attaching our bead. So to start with, what we're going to do is I need to make sure that I'm wrapping it pretty much central to where we've done our curve on the other side. I'm going to hold on to this and I'm going to wrap it 1, 2, 3, 4 times around like this. Happy with that. And then I'm going to get my pliers and just squeeze that together so it's nice and neat. What we want to do is just use our clippers just to clip off that wire right at the top of the ring there, and then gently just squash the end down. It's best to do it so that it's at the top, because as you put it on you don't want it scratching you, you don't want it kind of catching on things and scratching your finger. So then what we need to do, this part's quite tricky to see, it's difficult to explain, but you need to make sure you leave a gap and start wrapping here. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to do one wrap and show you here that I've left this little gap, because what I want to do is make sure that this wire ends up in the middle. So we've got 4 wraps on one side and 4 on the other. So I've started over here, and then I'm going to try and bring it back on itself and do another 4 wraps. So let's do that. That's it there. We need to do one more, yep. So I'm going to do one more. Ooh. And that should have made it, there we go. So that piece of wire to attach the amethyst bead to is now in the centre. So I'm going to squeeze those together to make it nice and neat. Like so. And then I am going to thread my bead on. Now what we need to do is we need to make sure that we pull it nice and tight, but also be quite careful with this one because the wire is very thin and very delicate, and if you pull it too tight you can actually kink it. It's very hard to get it back into the right shape, and it will be noticeable with something like this, so don't pull it too tight, but just make sure that it fits flush against the other side. And then we're going to do 4 wraps again. I'm going to show you here. I'm going to do 4 wraps on this side, like so. Get our little tool to pinch it back together, and then we're going to feed it through and do 4 on this side. So I'm going to make sure that that little bit of wire is tucked away underneath the bottom of the ring so you can't see it. And then I'm going to do 1, how many, 2, 3, 4 wraps there. Pull them in nice and close and tight. Might just do another one so that this ends up on top again. And again, we're going to get our cutters and we're going to cut there and squeeze that together. So there we go. That is lovely and neat. Now you can finish it like that because it looks really pretty, just like this. And it goes with our 1 bead bracelet. So you could leave it at that and say I'm done. But as you can see with these ones, I've just done a little kind of notch in it to give it a bit of shape from the top. So all I do with this, just to finish it off, is just squeeze this side down, and I'm going to squeeze that side down just to manipulate it into shape, and it just creates another little bit of interest. So you either leave it as it was or you can do that little squeeze, and there we go. Got this really pretty amethyst bead silver ring. I'll show you here. You can use any types of beads. I absolutely love beads, and I didn't show you earlier, but this is my beautiful pot. This is another beautiful pot of beads. I have lots of them. So you can make all sorts of different things, but beads come relatively cheap as well. I'll pop a link in the description and you can have a look at the beads too. But there's all sorts of beautiful colours, and a lot of them, you can buy glass beads, but I prefer the real gemstones. I think the real gemstones are really pretty. If you would like to learn how to make the bracelet that goes with it, that tutorial will follow at the end of this video. And if you like what you see, please do subscribe. There'll be loads more tutorials to come. And hit a like or make a comment, and if you leave a comment down below, I'll make sure to answer. If you have any questions, I'm totally happy to answer them, and let me know if there's any tutorials that you want to see as well, because I'm happy to make them.